Hello everybody, welcome back to Succeed with Omid. Today I'm going to be talking a lot about the lats, or the latissimus dorsi for you geeks out there. One of the things that tends to happen with a lot of my clients is they get into their head that we really don't want to arch the back ever, right? And that's because whenever they arch their back, they tend to fall into pain. Well, that's actually because the lat is dysfunctional, not because the back position is actually causing the pain. It's the quadratus lumborum that comes from the bottom of the ribs to the hips is actually pulling, rather than the lats getting this arch. So what we're going to do today is we're going to talk a lot about the activation of the lats, how to actually stretch the lats, and then how to put them into a pull-up to avoid a lot of the shoulder pain and back pain people get from the lats being dysfunctional in the first place. Now, before I get into some of this stuff, shout out to the guys over at Z Health. They're the ones that put up a video about this, and I just loved the philosophy of activate the muscle first, then stretch it, then work it. So here's what the lat does. I start on my right arm and turn this way for you so you can actually see my lat. If I spread my fingers out, my shoulder extensors turn on, so I'm going to do that first. Then holding the spine in this flat position, what I'm going to do is flex my shoulders far as I possibly can with a nice straight arm. Then what the lat does is it internally rotates or turns this bone in. So I'm going to take my thumb and turn it in at the shoulder as hard as I possibly can. Now if you can't get to this position, you got some work to do. Most of the clients I start with are over here. This is really where we want to be, if anything 90 degrees like the gymnasts, but the next thing the lat does is it adducts the shoulder, it pulls it in and across. Think about putting your thumb in your opposite pocket. Now here's the part that everybody gets scared about. What the other thing the lat does is it also attaches down here to the hip at that complex of the tailbone, and it extends the tailbone. It pushes it back behind us. So while I'm flexing, internally rotating and abducting, I'm pushing my hip back as hard as I can. Now here's the fun part. I'm going to try and get this shoulder as close to my tailbone as I can. And if you've never felt your lat contract like this before, chances are you will probably get some form of cramping that's going on. That means that your lat's been dysfunctional for quite a while. Now, flexion, internal rotation, adduction, extension, and slight rotation. All you have to do to stretch the lat is get into the exact opposite positions. I'm going to take this leg across my back, and then I'm going to stretch up and around. The exact opposite. Now what ends up happening for a lot of people is when you just do a static stretch, Gray Cook talks a lot about this, is the weakest muscle stretches first. If your lat has been chronically tight and dysfunctional, it's going to be the last thing to stretch until you do this activation. Now all of a sudden you'll get into this stretch and oh my god, you've never felt your lat stretch like that before. Okay? So here's the thing else I want to do. I'm going to plug this in as step number 3 into a pull-up. I've got a couple bands here set up to help me with my pull-up. Obviously I can do pull-ups without bands, but that's not what we want to do. We don't want the muscles compensating. We want to make this as easy as possible, so I'll grab the heaviest band first. Now what I like to do is step into it with both feet. And remember, one of the things the lat does is it extends that pelvis behind me. I want that to happen and then engage the lats. And then pull. And I want to really keep all of that stuff activated the entire way down to really reinforce the lats working maximum contraction. Oh, I can't wait until I have a better place to film for pull-ups, but once again, I'm going to stick both feet in the band. If you need a heavier band, by the way, that's okay with you. I only weigh 135 pounds, so this is great. But again, the lat does a lot of stuff. One of them is lumbar extension. So I'm going to extend my back and push into this band a little bit. Then I'm going to do all the same stuff as before. I'm going to try to flex the shoulder in this position, internally rotate as I pull, and then adduct, pulling those shoulders together as I come through that position, really getting this slow, and on top of that, reversing on the way down, coming through. Now, if none of that happens, and I get rid of the band, and I go back to the traditional cheating way of doing a pull-up, you'll see why the shoulder and the back hurt. People tend to just dump into their shoulders and then go through there. And here's the thing, their traps are really, really strong, so they'll be able to cheat that for quite a bit, and they will see some results in the lats. But A year later, their shoulder is in massive amounts of inflammation. They've got nerve impingement, they've got tendon impingement, they've got all sorts of chronic migraines, they've got all sorts of harshness in their voice, their heart starts slowing down. There's a lot of nastiness that comes from that repetitive pattern. So, once again, activate the lat first with that 5-point activation, then stretch the heck out of it, getting into the exact opposite position to stretch through that lat, really reaching. Then plug it into a pull-up with a lot of assistance. Really get that repetitive programming into the movement to get that shoulder and back into a good position. Once you've done that 20, 30, 40 times, then take the bands away, rock and roll. You're gonna be fine because you've already done the work, all right? That's it for today. I hope that information was very helpful to you guys. As always, have a happy and healthy rest of your day. I'll see you next time.